Hello, everyone. Dr. Vicky here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. It's time for moon shadows, and we'll be doing moon shadows for the new moon in the sign of Virgo, which is occurring actually as I do this tomorrow, the 13th of September, and we'll take a look at that. Now, generally, I do this along with Ona from Ona's Tarot, but she's in the process of moving within the next 2 or 3 days. Actually, I believe it's happening tomorrow with the new moon and Friday with Mercury stationing direct. And we're going to talk all about that in this video. So I think what I'd like to do is I'd like to start right at the chart. So let me share my screen with you, fellow stargazers. All right, and I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, a little bit less. All righty, come on now. Here we go. Okay. So we're looking at September 14th. Oh, did I say the 13th? Today's the 13th. Tomorrow's the 14th. Tomorrow is actually the new moon. Thursday, September 14th, 2023, we have a new moon at 22 degrees of Virgo. And we can see this chart right here in front of us. This is a chart for the US, so my apologies to anybody else who doesn't actually live here. But what I've done is I've highlighted a couple of the interesting aspects that we have in this new moon. The most evident one is, and the tightest aspect to this new moon in Virgo is a trine from Uranus. It's just about a degree away, which is very tight. Trines are energies of flow. So there is a flow of energy, and Uranus is a sign and a planet associated with sudden change. In fact, the other night I was lying in my bed reading quietly. There was a storm that was sort of moving through the area, and there had been some distant rumblings of thunder, and then it sort of stopped, but it was raining pretty hard, and suddenly there was a crash. Right? And I jumped out of bed, which let me tell you, it was late. So me jumping out of bed, I had to have, it had to be shocking for me to actually do that. So I went to the Weather Channel and I checked it out, and it said that there had been a lightning strike 0.12 miles away from my current location, which pretty much meant up the block. And it reminded me in a way of the energy of Uranus. It's not expected. Suddenly it happens. And really all you can do is react in the moment to it. And that's really the energy of Uranus. And so that's the kind of thing that is sort of set up for this new moon. Now, the new moon is a cycle, right? It goes from new moon to full moon, back to the new moon, which incidentally, the next new moon is going to be an eclipse. So we're moving towards eclipse season as well. And so there's an energy to that. But this energy of Uranus making this flowing aspect to this new moon pretty much says that this new moon is going to be a time when changes happen, and they happen quickly and often unexpectedly. Not to make you nervous about this lunation cycle being that month-long cycle of the moon and the sun. It's really the idea that we don't have a choice but to move through the changes that this new moon is going to sort of the drum roll for, right? Okay. So we also have an opposition of this new moon to Neptune. It is wider than the trine that we have as far as orb wise, but it is still there. It's still happening. Neptune in Pisces. Neptune is very powerful in Pisces. It is the sign. It is the sign that is ruled by Neptune. And of course, it's been in Pisces for a long time. I think if I remember correctly, it moved in 2012. It's there for 14 years and moving out in 2026. So we're at the latter degrees of Pisces, and Pisces is connected to the ocean. It's connected to the dissolution of boundaries, and we can see Neptune expression in things like some of the climate catastrophes that we have seen, namely the floods, these 1,000-year floods and 500-year floods, and we've thrown the 100-year floods out the window because they seem to be happening every other weekend in some places. But in Libya, there was so much rain that it bursted through 2 dams, and I believe they think, and the last time I heard, they were saying 6,000 people, but probably more, just washed away by these floodwaters. And that's the kind of energy of Neptune. And so this is going to be, I think, a very active weather month. It is hurricane season. And as I sit here, I live in southeastern Massachusetts. We're waiting to see what's going to happen with Hurricane Lee, that's sitting out in the Atlantic, and may actually cause some problems in my area. Whether it actually hits whether it actually hits the land, it's definitely affecting the ocean and rip currents and high tides and all the like. So we are lucky in a way that it's not happening on a full moon. I believe Idalia, the last hurricane that was of consequence that hit Florida, I believe that occurred on a full moon. So they had to deal with the full moon tide. New moons are pretty, they're the lowest low tides, and they still have a high tide that's pretty high. So these storms sort of correlating with the moon, as it were. So this is an opposition to the new moon, and so there is an awareness of the need really for cleansing, some sort of cleansing. Virgo and Pisces, the axis of which this opposition and the new moon is at, is an axis of healing. And so we are being made aware of what needs to be healed, not the least of which is our relationship to the earth and how we ready ourselves for these catastrophes. We really kind of need to put our attention where it's going to best serve us, I think, and coming up with plans and sort of reorienting our lives to the reality on the ground. Virgo really is so much about reality on the ground. Now, if we look at the Sabian symbol for this degree of Virgo, we look to 22 degrees of Virgo. It says a royal coat of arms enriched with precious stones. The certification of aristocratic status at whatever level nobility expresses itself in cultural eminence. Once more, a reference to ancestral achievements occurs among these symbols for the sign Virgo. It seems here, in its most exalted character for royalty, is spoken of. Traditionally, the king is the spiritual symbol of unity and of an integrated nation. And here we have nobility. And so there is a need here, perhaps, for a reminder that we need to act in noble ways. And for any of you who have been watching the political environment, nobility isn't the first word that comes to mind, we'll say. Now, when you look at, or when I look at any new moon energy, I always look to see what the ruler of that sign is doing, because it is significant. It's disposited by that ruler. And of course, the ruler of Virgo is Mercury. And Mercury is, as you can see here, stationing. Now, it doesn't actually go direct until the next day, the 15th, but it is standing still. When a planet stands still like this, or seems to be standing still, it's not actually standing still. We can't actually No planet ever stands still, and no planet ever moves backwards. It's just how it looks like from our perspective on planet Earth. But when a planet is stationary like this, it is a very powerful energy. And so if we look at the Sabian symbol, excuse me, for that 8 degrees, 3 minutes of Virgo, we go up and we look at the 9th degree, because that's the way that's the way you're supposed to read the Sabian symbols. In the 9th degree of Virgo is an expressionist painter at work, the urge to express one's individual sense of value regardless of tradition. Interestingly enough, that this does actually sort of is very similar to the energy of Neptune making an opposition to this Virgo new moon. Virgo really is very practical. It's very pragmatic. It likes facts. It wants to just get down to business with this. And that Neptune opposition keeps blurring the boundaries. And so it can be frustrating for the Virgo, but it can also sort of take the Virgo out of that being so particular and getting so caught up in the details of things that you get lost in the detail and forget the big picture. While this Mercury is asking us to appreciate the big picture. And when you're looking at an expressionist painting, if you look too close, it doesn't make any sense. You need to sort of back up from it in order to see the big picture. And I believe that this is helping us to do that. Now, Mercury is actually in an opposition to Saturn. Saturn is the planet of reality, but it's in Pisces. So as Saturn has been moving through Pisces, those things that seem real seem not to be real, like what's really real. And I know for myself, as I watch what's going on in the world, not that I don't think what's going on in the world is actually happening. I do think it's actually happening. But then there are the other things that I watch and I'm thinking like, this is just one big show. Like, this is just one way to sort of wrap us up into a reality. And we can choose that in certain instances where we want to put our attention. Our attention does need to be pretty much on the weather to see what's coming, right? But a lot of the political stuff, it seems, not so much when actually things happen, like when the rubber meets the road and something comes down, like from a judge or this, that, and the other thing. Those are things that are like, that's happening. But all the other stuff on the in-between, this one said that, and he said, she said, all that stuff is just a distraction. And that's something that we need to guard against, distraction. Now, if we move over to this tree of life, what I've done is I've put the moon sits here on the tree of life in a place called Yesod, and we have Virgo there, and we have the sun in Tiphereth, and we have Virgo there. And the vibration of the day of this new moon is a 30/3, which sits here in the Sephiroth called Hesed. Hesed is associated with the planet Jupiter. And so we look to see, what is Jupiter doing? Well, Jupiter is actually also making a trine to this this new moon. And so we have both Uranus and Jupiter making trines to this new moon. Uranus change, Jupiter's expansion. And so there is a lot of energy of change, which is kind of unusual in a way with Virgo, because while Virgo is about making adjustments, big changes aren't usually the thing associated with Virgo. But I believe that the aspects are going to make that happen, so to speak. And if you add Pluto up here in Capricorn, we see we have a grand Earth trine that is going to increase the energy. And of course, that could also increase seismic activity, earthquakes, volcanoes. We had an earthquake in Morocco, followed by a biblical deluge in Libya, and Kilauea is blowing up again in Hawaii. And of course, we could just go back every week. We have 1, 2, 3, 10 things where we can see, as we look at what's going on in the world, almost to biblical proportions, which I think makes some evangelicals very excited about the end of the world, but makes kind of the rest of us go, and why aren't we paying attention to this? You know, Virgo is the energy of fixing what's broken. And the climate isn't broken. The climate is as you sow, so shall you reap. We have to be the ones, because we initiated this, or we're part of it. Well, maybe there's some people say, well, it's not human things. This happens. These are ages. These are things. One way or the other, whether it's human, it's created through humans or not, it's something we have to deal with. This is not a time for blame game. This is a time for solutions. And Virgo is very much about solutions. And so I like that with this new moon. It is an opportunity for and solutions to come like this, ideas to come like this. That's Uranus. Uranus will often come not just as a crash of lightning 2 blocks up from your house that makes you jump out of bed and feel like your whole body is like tingling from the energy of the lightning flash, but it can also be realizations and great ideas that come through. So keep your mind open. Keep your mind open through this period. All right. Now, one of the things I just want to just quickly go over right before this new moon, we had a couple of things change in the sky. It's a relatively quiet week, save for these changes that I'm about to tell you. And I want to apologize if you're having trouble hearing me. I'm in a place in my house where I am very close to the road, and sometimes it can sound like wow, things whooshing by, and I do apologize for that. But if I close the window, I will die of heat. And I figured you'd rather me alive with a few whooshes in the background. So what happened just before this new moon is happening? Well, on the 13th, which is actually today, we have Pallas Athena. She is an asteroid goddess. She is the goddess of strategy. She's considered a goddess of how the government works. She was the goddess of Athens. She's also a goddess of strategy and a goddess of social justice. And she has just moved into Libra. Libra is the sign of balance, justice, weighing options. And Libra is a cardinal sign. And as being a cardinal sign, the first degree of the cardinal signs are world points. And so we have the goddess of social justice moving onto the world point of Libra. That is very powerful. And, oops. We also have today on the 13th, because I'm doing this the day before the new moon, we have Vesta moving into Cancer. Now, Vesta is also an asteroid goddess. And it's interesting because Virgo as a sign is connected to the energy of the feminine, the virgin, right? The virgin mother, Virgo. And so she is intimately, in a way, connected to these other goddess energies through the asteroids. Vesta is what we devote ourselves to. It's connected to the idea of the Vestal virgins, whose job was it to keep the eternal flame of Rome burning, to nurture the flame of spirit, the life force of a place. And it's moving into Cancer, and Cancer is the sign of life. It is the occult. When you read the occult books, it is said that Cancer is the way into incarnation. And of course, Cancer is associated with the mother, and we all come in through the mother. There's no other way to do it yet. I mean, that may change, I guess, but right now there's only one way to come onto this planet, and it's through the mother. And so we need to devote ourselves to the nurturance of that energy, to the energy of feeding and nurturing and taking care. There was just a report that came down because we allowed the children's tax credit thanks to Joe Manchin of the Democratic Party, and we put Democratic Party in quotes whenever we're talking about Joe Manchin, who said that, well, we're not going to give these people this money because some people are using it for drugs, when they actually found out that most people use it for things like, oh, groceries and school supplies and, things to live. And so we went from raising all these children out of poverty to now they've fallen back into poverty, and it's actually gotten worse. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that, we're still trying to get out of the pandemic. And even though there have been things to help us, ease this a bit, it's not getting down to, yet at least, to the regular people. And so we're seeing in this country of America how this is how we take care of our children. Not to mention that we allow people to go into schools with guns and shoot them down in cold blood. We won't even get to that conversation. But Vesta in the sign of Cancer is saying, hey guys, we need to devote ourselves to our ability to feed ourselves, be safe, our children, right? Bring safety to our children and our women. Cancer is also a season starting sign, so it's also a cardinal sign. So we have the goddess of social justice moving into the sign of justice, the cardinal sign, world point, and we have Vesta moving what we need to devote ourselves to. What do we need to sustain in Cancer? Another cardinal sign, and they are square each other, and square is crisis. So we see a crisis that's happening and what we need to do to respond to that crisis. And we have the new moon. And then we also have on Friday, and this happens before Mercury stations direct, because that also happens on Friday, the 15th. We have Ceres, the goddess of agriculture, reaping, food, grief, ingress into Scorpio. Now, Ceres is often associated with the end of something, cutting something down. Its symbol is the sickle, right? And so we have this energy of the goddess of the grain reaping what is sown in the sign of death and rebirth. And so this is actually, when Ceres does move into Cancer, it will trine Vesta. When Ceres moves into Scorpio, it's going to trine Vesta in Cancer and also trine Saturn in Pisces. This is all in water, And so more water to come, folks, more water to come. All right, so I am going to stop this share. Now, normally what I would do is Ona and I would discuss what we're feeling, what we would put on our altars. Virgo is a very pragmatic sign. As far as crystals you may want to use, I personally would use moss agate because it's my favorite anyway. Any of the crystals that would help to free the throat, because Virgo is a sign ruled by Mercury. Mercury is the sign or is planet of communication. And so it's about opening the lines of communication in order for us to work together to fix what is broken, right? It can't just be a single person. It needs to be, we need to come together and work on making the world a better place, instead of working against each other, working together, right? And so any of the crystals that would help us to be able to speak to another, I like blue lace agate's a lovely crystal for the throat. I also like, what is that? What is that? And turquoise is a good throat crystal. So I might put that um, on my altar. Symbols of Virgo. If you happen to have a site or something like that, you could put that on there. And it is a harvest time, but Virgo is a harvest time. So if you have some apples or different things that you've harvested, or somebody else has harvested for you, you can put that um, on your altar as well. Okay. So I thought I would do a card reading for this new moon in Virgo, and I'm using the Wildwood Tarot. It's very earth-centered, so I think if there is a message for the Virgo new moon, this would be the tarot to do it. And I also, let's see, if I can find my herbal oracle, we'll pull one of those as well. Let me see. Let's just and I wish I could like put the camera down so you could see these cards as I pull them, but you'll just have to do it the usual way. After all this time on the internet, you think I'd have the camera stuff down, but no. All right, Virgo new moon. We have the 8 vibration, stag. As you sow, so shall you reap. This in this deck, this is the strength card. It reminds us, as above, so below. So I think this is saying that wherever we've endeavored, wherever we've put our energy, whatever we've planted at this point, now we're beginning to sow. Now, for some people, we're starting to reap. Excuse me. We've sown and now we're reaping. Let's see the challenge to that. We have salmon here. This is the Queen of Cups. The salmon is one of the most ancient symbols of wisdom. And we can see it's jumping out of the water. There's a hazel tree there. The hazelnut is considered also a symbol of wisdom. And the salmon eating the hazelnut is symbolic in the Celtic tradition. As a challenge card, the Queen of Vessels. The Queen of Vessels is a very psychic energy. And so the challenge, maybe the challenge is seeing what is actually going to happen, right? Like as you sow, so shall you reap. Trying to sort of make sense out of what we're seeing here. Let's see what's underneath it all. We have 50, is this 50? Yes, the Guardian. This is the devil card in this deck. This is a Capricorn vibration, and the 15-6 as a vibration. The 6 is about community. The 15-6, the devil card is asking you, what are you? What do you understand about your human condition? Do you feel trapped, or do you see that there is a higher purpose, a higher source, a higher connection? The devil knows that there is. And what are you choosing to stay chained to? What are you choosing to stay chained to? Let's see the past. We have the King of Bows here, the Adder. It's an interesting card. This card never really speaks to me of the King of Wands, but what it does speak to me is being able to remove yourself from the ball of snakes, right? So this snake up here has been able to move itself away from the group of snakes, and in that respect it has a higher perspective, and it is, to a certain extent, because it has a higher perspective, bit of a leader in this case. And so in the past, you have extricated yourself from some sort of group. You've extricated yourself from some sort of perspective that you couldn't see beyond because you were in it. And so you've done the due diligence to sort of separate yourself from that so you could actually look at it from a higher perspective. Let's see what's in the sky. We have the 9 of arrows here. This is called dedication. The 9 of arrows is not a particularly, what's the word I'm looking for? Happy card. It is the 9 of swords in other decks. And there's just in general, there's this sense, because this is up in the sky, right? There's this sense of anxiety. There's this sense of impending doom. But it is all in the mind. It is in the mind. So there's a lot of energy of people like really losing their minds in a way. Okay, let's see what's in the immediate future. We have the 9 of vessels. This is called generosity. It's another 9. This is about imagining your wishes coming true. In the Kabbalah, where the 9 sit in Yesod, it is the foundation. Yesod means foundation. It is connected to the moon in the tree of life, and it really holds within it the possibilities, the blueprints of reality. And in a way, what it is that you put your energy towards is the reality that's most likely going to manifest itself. So with all of this insecurity, bad news, oh my God, the world is ending, these cards are suggesting that you focus on the changes you want to see, that you focus on the vision of the world that you want to see. And because we're dealing with Virgo, you're going to take the actions necessary to create that world, because that's what Virgo does. Virgo does the work that needs to be done. But it's important that you keep your emotional body in a positive state of expectation. Okay. Now that means that's what stuff that you actually have agency over. You do not have agency over whether a political person goes to jail or that stuff. You don't, I mean, you can think about it, but this really is talking about your connection. What do you need to do to fix your life, and having a positive emotional expectation around what that's going to look like, I think is going to go a long way to help mitigate some of the stress. This is the mind and this is the heart. Okay, the mind is a terrible thing. The mind separates and the heart unites. And so if you want to attract things towards you, you need to put the energy of what it is that you want in your life, and not to put the attention on what everybody's saying about other things that you have no control over anyway. This is how it's seen from the outside. And I often say, well, who's outside of us, right? Well, maybe the extraterrestrials or something, but we have the 9, the Hermit, which is the card of Virgo. And so we're learning. We're learning. That's what we're doing. And we're utilizing our wisdom in order to move us forward. Your domestic situation, we have the Page of Vessels, the Otter. This is the Page of Cups. There's a playfulness here. And so the Otter, of course, is very playful. If you ever got to watch them on the nature channels, they're hysterical, right? So this is telling us to to, in your domestic situation, to not forget about play. There's so many serious things going on. Sometimes you just need to play. Hopes and fears. We have the Emperor or the Green Man in this deck. We hope for some order, perhaps some agency in our life. Let's see the outcome. We have the Four of Vessels, called boredom in this. This is divine discontent. This is a sense that it's not going to matter what we think or what we do. It's, in a way, it's a loss of hope, but because you're being you're sort of stuck in some sort of emotional morass. Let's continue, see if we can get another, if we can get a major arcana. We have the King of Cups here. This is dominion over your feelings. It's also a need to be still and wait for your moment. The Three of Cups, joy, hanging out with friends. And the world card, meaning that this is the ending of a cycle and the beginning of a new one. Okay. And so try not to get too depressed or feeling the futility of the moment, because this is a time of endings and new beginnings. Let's see what's underneath it. We have the Nine of Stones, which is tradition. This is traditional knowledge, especially earth-based traditional knowledge. The Ten of Stones, home. This is a focus on the earth itself and on the home and on the family and how to have stability. And the Five of Arrows, how to avoid getting hit. This is a Five of Swords in other decks, but in this deck, this goat is pretty well, and you can see it is actually divinely protected. So it's a reminder that you are divinely protected. Excuse me, I am like sweating like a crazy person because I don't have my fan on, not to disturb you guys. All right, so let me see if I can find my other deck, and we'll pull an oracle card. We'll be right back. Hi, everyone. I had to put a fan on. I was dying. So again, if you hear that sound, sorry about it. So I'm going to be pulling a oracle from this deck. It's called Soulflower Plant Spirit Oracle, and I'm especially using it because, of course, Virgo is connected to the natural world as an earth sign. Also, a mutable sign. Main Street, you gotta love it. So this is important because we have already had the cops come through with their little siren. All right, let's pull a card. Show me, what energy do we need to be aware of? What advice does the Soulflower Oracle have for us on this new moon in Virgo? Columbine, abundance. So I'm going to read this to you. I'll put the thing up because these are really pretty. So CO, abundance. Wow, this is a nice one to have. Columbine encourages you to joyfully embrace life's bewildering array of uncertainties with the kind of confidence that doesn't require too much thought. Go with the flow with what feels right. Abundance is the knowledge and security that comes with acceptance that all your needs are being met. Well, I think that is so apropos for almost everything. Whoops, sorry guys. For almost everything I've said. Okay, so can you tell Mercury is still retrograde? Come on. Let's see. So this is Neptune opposite the new moon. I actually had to shut the video off and turn it back on to focus on me. It would not focus. So that's what you can expect on this new moon in Virgo. All right, guys, have yourself a wonderful day. Like and subscribe if you would. For those of you who are interested, I am starting a beginner's astrology class. I already have quite a few people who are coming into the class. For those of you who have decided to join me, I will be sending out the Zoom links for you for all the sessions. So you keep your eyes peeled in your email for that. We still have space if you want to learn astrology with me. I also have a beginner's Kabbalah dealing with the basics of the tree of life. It's a little bit technical, and but it's the first part of the building blocks to learn to work with the tree of life. And most people who take it do enjoy it. So, all right, guys, and there'll be something below. That's on my events page on my website, so you can check that out. And next month and next moon shadows episode will be the new moon in Libra, and hopefully Ona will be able to join me, and that is also a eclipse. So we have eclipse season coming. So and I do believe I'll be on moon shine over in the next 2 weeks when we have the full moon to this new moon. So have a wonderful day. Like and subscribe, as I said, and I'll see you again next time for Moon Shadows. Take care.